Peace and blessings, family. My name is Jay. I want to talk to you today about the planet Saturn and Uranus and astrology. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So, the planet Saturn and Uranus in astrology are like the authority and the revolutionaries. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. And I could actually break down both planets in just like 1 or 2 minutes, but you got to get into the details and get a bit deep so we can really understand what these planets is about. So, break down as best as possible. Now, so with Saturn, the authority, just hearing the word authority, you can kind of get just what Saturn deals with. So what are authorities usually responsible for? Bringing about, you know, they're responsible for like control, bringing about, and bringing about, structure and organization. And how do you bring about structure and organization? Through, limitations and restrictions and boundaries. And there you go. That's pretty much Saturn right there. But it goes deeper than that. But yeah, that's like Saturn on the surface level, limitations and restrictions and boundaries. Now let's go deep. So with some limitations and restrictions and boundaries, there can also come fears and paranoias and anxieties because we know when you're limited and restricted in cases where you don't want to be, you can start to get very anxious, very paranoid, and very uncomfortable. And and this is where Uranus comes in, but we know Uranus yet. But yeah, I'll get that in a minute. But that's not just going to happen. Whether it's in the case where you really are in a case, in a situation where you are restricted and you don't need to be, or in a case where you do need to be restricted. But let's talk about the one where and let's talk about the case where you do need to be restricted or do need to utilize, restrictions and limitations, and not so much where you don't need to be. So in the cases where you do need to be, how that could play out is like, say you are in say you're in a relationship with somebody, or it could be in yourself and something that you are, you know, and indulging in and attached to. Now, don't mind that, but anyway, now with that relationship or your own personal activities that you are interested in, um, uh, damn, what was that? Well, let's put it like this: when you actually limit and restrict yourself and bind yourself to those things, what's naturally going to happen? You're gonna become you start to you start to become fixated on them, focused on them, hell, maybe even become obsessed with them. But ultimately, what's the main thing that's gonna? What's the main thing? What's like the thing? What's the thing that you get from this? It's gonna grow over time because of your dedication and focus on them. But was also another thing here? Responsibility, responsibility. That's ultimately the and these are the lessons and these are the lessons and these are the lessons and things that Saturn is trying to teach us. You know, responsibility. Maturity, dedication, and focus. And through being responsible, dedicated, and focused to things that we're into or people that we care about, we'll experience the most growth and the most fruits and all that pretty much. So that's ultimately Saturn. Saturn can be harsh, but always remember when something is. Always remember when there's something that's. You always gotta remember when something appears challenging. That's everything is ultimately everything is like ultimately a test and the challenge can be harsh in some way, but it's ultimately all going to help you build character and strength, and that's pretty much Saturn. Saturn is ultimately here to help you build character and strength, to making you be more responsible and mature through limiting you and putting you limiting you and making you commit to certain people, places, and things in your life that you need to be limited to. And you when you use the certain you'll know. So I ain't really gonna get too far off into that because I want to keep this as simple as possible. But yeah, that's Saturn. Responsibility, responsibility, maturity, wisdom and growth through commitment, which deals with being focused and dedicated by limiting and restricting yourself to whatever it is that you focused and dedicated on, because you can't have one without the other. But yeah, that's that's authorities are always teachers in a way. They say you need rules because without rules you wouldn't have any sport. That's all it is. You need familiarity because if you're never familiar with anything, you wouldn't be able to establish you wouldn't be able to establish that security and like identity and all that. So yeah, so, it could go into a lot of different things. I ain't trying to do all that, but just understand Saturn is definitely a very important planet. So yeah, now Saturn in the sign, and then Saturn in the house. Actually, do these separately because I've noticed that when I do like Saturn in the sign in a house, I tend to confuse myself. So I'm actually doing them separately. Now, say you got Saturn in air, Saturn in Aries. Saturn in Aries, what is Aries? It's cardinal fire. This cardinal fire just simply means taking the lead. Taking the lead when it comes to your own creativity and imagination being put out. Pretty much. Now you got Saturn in that sign. What does that mean? It means that when that means that you're gonna experience limitations and restrictions when it comes to things that you want to when it comes to the things that things that you want to things that you want to take action towards you know take action towards creatively pretty much. So or things that you can do, and naturally putting that kind of thing on fire is definitely frustrating because it's like you know it's like I'm trying to express here, I'm trying to create here, and I'm constantly getting shut down and all that. But no, it's not so much getting shut down. It's more so what you're being asked is to become more responsible with where you're putting your energy pretty much with Saturn and Aries. So, yeah, because it's already a cardinal sign. And this definitely brings about responsibility in this sign of Aries. So, yeah, Saturn and Aries, you're going to you can experience those limitations and restrictions when it comes to the projects that you take action towards, and it's also more trying to help you get limited. With displacement, is ultimately more so trying to help you get limited to help limit your limit like your um, limit your possibilities so that you can ultimately and it's like it's like the fixed modality in a way, but yeah, so you can limit yourself to a certain creative endeavor and project that you can really dedicate your time to become more of a to become more you know responsible with that and more mature and um, wise with that and ultimately a master because like I said earlier, never forget Saturn is a teacher. So yeah, and then Saturn in like any of these houses, Saturn in your say like Saturn in your seventh house, in Saturn in your seventh house, it's like and then never forget when you put Saturn in the sign can also be equated to that house that the sign rules too. I mean the house that rules over that sign too. So say Saturn in Aries, you could also get like Saturn in Aries and Saturn in your first house if you understand what the first house deals with. So yes. Now Saturn in seventh house and or Libra. What does this mean? When it comes to things dealing with seventh house and or Libra type things, it means that your your relationships and your partnerships is gonna when it comes to things dealing with your relationships, your partnerships, and all of that, they're going to experience those limitations and restrictions again. And it's ultimately because you need to. And what the lesson being taught here is to make sure basically when it comes to this placement, I say make sure you say choose. It's like not only choose your partner, not only choose your partners, and choose your partnerships wisely and all that, or your partner. You know what I mean? Choose them wisely, but not only that, be committed and loyal, and focused, so that you can experience the most, so that you can both, experience the most growth and maturity and all that, and knowledge and wisdom with one another through, through that hard work and dedication, responsibility, and focus too. Because with the that's nothing. You could already get that when you talk about responsibility and dedication. Anyway, that you talk about hard work. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So those are just a couple of examples. And now, let's move on to the planet Uranus. Now, Uranus is like the opposite of Saturn, where Saturn does authority, bring about structures and limitations, and control and routine and familiarity. Uranus is like I'm getting tired of all that. To hell with all that. We doing it this way now. This is why I say Uranus is like that revolutionary. Get tired of things working one way, so now we're about to lead a revolt and go against the grain. Do bring about change on a massive scale so that we can bring about a different way of doing things in the world. That's Uranus in a nutshell. Another way is like that Another way is like the kid starting, the child starting to become more like a young adult, a teenager, young adult, and they still got that influence in their parents. Be like, hey, and this is like another example. Be like, hey, I know y'all still care. I'm still trying to bring about still trying to help me to become more responsible. But it's like I need to step into my own I need to step into my own power and start doing things my own way. That's also another way of looking at Saturn and Uranus in a nutshell too. So yeah. But Uranus don't only deal with change, being, bringing about change and going against the grain and being revolutionary. Uranus is also, and just talking about those kind of things, this also ties into other things I'm going to talk about too. Uranus is also a planet that deals with being, you know, um, it's kind of like fire in a way. It's also a planet that deals with independence as well and being unique. And it's also a planet that deals with eccentricity and standing out. And eccentricity just means being odd and weird, and being odd, quote unquote, quote unquote, odd and weird. By default, you're going to stand out because why? You don't, you're not like everybody else. And if you're not, and if you don't like, if you ain't like everybody else, then you don't, you stand out because you ain't like everybody else. You probably got some Uranus. You probably got some Uranus influence heavy somewhere. And, you probably got some heavy Uranus influence in your chart. So anyway, and yeah, don't even want to get to that. So yeah, and Uranus, another thing, other things with Uranus too. Uranus is also a planet that deals with being innovative, but also deals with inventions and technology too, and electronics. So that's also Uranus also deals with those things as well. So yeah, and talking about the planets Saturn and Uranus are also both associated with Aquarius in particular. But the planet Saturn is associated with two signs, and then Uranus is associated with one. Saturn rules over Capricorn and the Aquarius, which is why Capricorn and Aquarius, because of those limitations and restrictions from um, because of those limitations and restrictions from Saturn. This is why their personalities and all that, and their personalities and their actions and all that, which is the personality, and their actions and all that, and the things that they're constantly aware, basically their actions and their actions, their personality, which is usually the sun. This is why they're usually very, this is why they're usually very strict, or why it's very. Why am I making it so difficult? This is why their actions and this is why their actions sun and their reactions moon tend to be very, um, very detached and very limiting and restricted because of that influence from Saturn, Aquarius and Capricorn, the signs Aquarius and Capricorn. So yeah. Now, uh, with and then there's also the sign that Uranus that I mean not Uranus is the planet. There's also the planet Uranus that rules over Aquarius. And what does Aquarius deal with? Aquarius deals with no Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So just knowing that, you can kind of see why, because of that, why Aquarius is not only have that like emotional, you know, like that emotionally detached and you know that emotionally restricted thing going on because of Saturn. They also have like that that originality, uniqueness thing going on because of their eccentricity, which all go and all that's coming from that influence from Uranus. So yeah, now we talk about Uranus and like say Uranus and say like Uranus and Sagittarius or the ninth house. When Uranus and Sagittarius in the ninth house, we talked about how Uranus deals with changes, and revolutionary, with the changes in revolts and all that being unique and different, independent. What does this mean? Um, I mean, this, you bring that to Sagittarius, bring that in the Sagittarius and or the ninth house, which deals with deals with beliefs. It's a house that deals with. It's also kind of like Uranus and Aquarius and 11th house in a way. But yeah, this is a house that deals with the house. This is a house that Sagittarius ninth house deals with. Like both the higher forms of intelligence, communication, and all that knowledge and all not all that good stuff. like third house on a much more massive and broader scale. And what does all that mean now? When it comes to things like enlightenment and higher things dealing with your enlightenment and higher consciousness and all that, and a foreign travel, and your great surroundings. That's because of the influence of Uranus over that house, over that ninth house. Anything that's dealing with the ninth house is going to be experiencing change. Anything that's dealing with the ninth house, in which I say one more time, which deals with your your beliefs in higher learning, higher knowledge, higher forms of education, intelligence, communication, and all that, and foreign travel, long distance travel, and all that. Greater surroundings, all that, because of the influence from Uranus is going to be going through. It's going to be experiencing changes, and it's going to be being dealt with in different ways, or being being dealt with in different ways. So, yeah, and that's like my interpretation on that. So yeah, Ooh, I got a headache. I think it's this hat. It's probably this hat. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this over this video. But yeah, you guys, this is like my take on Saturn and Uranus for the most part. And if y'all like this, as I always say, if you like it, feel free to give it a like. And if you got any feedback or criticism, so that I can continue to grow and serve y'all better, that's even more appreciated. But with that being said, I'm gonna talk to you guys later. Y'all have a good evening, and I love you guys. Peace.